but I got a burner. Hey, my name sounds dumb, but it's my story that really counts. My name is Spider Bob, and I go around calling out evildoers and bad ideas. Butch Hartman! Tom and Star do not compute! Why does Robin have to be such an idiot? I do actually fight bad guys. I once took down my evil replicant clone. But every once in a while, I chill out with a good movie. Coco made me cry. There's so many possibilities with Blade Runner. I mean, people have interpreted this movie in all sorts of ways. From Frozen is good. And there's one good movie I recently saw with my friends that totally blew us away. Hey everybody, welcome to our comic book, our review. This is totally not taking place in the comic book. I hope people watching really like the intro that I'm really working hard on.
Yeah,
I've been posting pictures of the intro I'm making for this review on my Instagram and Snapchat. So you guys, people watching, if you want updates for the videos I'm making, and that's where I'm posting updates on social media at Blood and Bobbies. So we saw this really, I words can't describe how happy I am after seeing this movie. We saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which, just to clarify, the whole reason I didn't do trailer reactions for Into the Spider-Verse is that, one, I saw the first trailer without doing a reaction, so I'm like, I can't do a trailer reaction anymore. But the other thing was, I didn't expect to do, like, a movie review. I wasn't sure if people weren't going to check me out. Like, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be so amazing, it's going to be so amazing, and, they're making it sound like it's going to be the next greatest animated movie, and I'm like, really? Is it really going to be that good? But it's like, anytime I see a movie that involves, anytime I see a movie
keep on going.
that involves Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Phil Lord, two guys that made Cloudy for Chance of Meatballs, 21 Jump Street, and the Lego Movie. It's like, anytime I see a movie made by them, I always go in with, oh, all right, it's probably going to be okay. And then I'm just so blown away when it's over. Like, I'm honestly still amazed they didn't direct this movie, but here I am gushing about Into the Spider-Verse without talking about the movie itself. Do you guys want to say something to start off?
Well, I just absolutely loved it. Yeah, so much so that I reveled in the opportunity of getting to watch it twice.
Were you able to? I know you said you were going to try to watch. You did? You did?
Yes.
And how was it the second time?
Well worth it.
Well worth it. Good. Steven?
Who did you see it with?
Call my boyfriend and some of his friends.
What did they think?
They were all well, my boyfriend and one of his friends were both really, really hyped for it already. One of them was even like a really big Spider-Man fan, so they loved it. There was one guy who got really on top of the movie because of the writing. He pointed out how some characters seem to just be there just for the sake of being there. And, I mean, that could be argued, but, overall, everyone thought it was at least a pretty good movie. I was actually surprised to hear how much the other friend had to say about the writing, because, I mean, I guess I hadn't really sat down to think of it myself either. Plus, I'm not much of a person to really hunker down and work out the logistics of writing. For me, it's just like, does it seem to work? But they were really getting into the nitty-gritty of it, so.
Well, what were some things you heard, like, before I get into mine, like, what were some things you heard from them?
The main point I remember they made was how they could have completely wrote out Penny Parker in his opinion. Judging by the whole making the goober, and I don't know if the viewers are gonna know what we're talking about, but yeah, they make like a drive of sorts, and Penny is the one who gets to remake it. But you have the argument that uh, Gwen Stacy actually ends up getting the computer earlier in the movie, and with just with her and the other Peter Parker, uh, they could easily have remade the Goober themselves as well. So there wasn't too much of a necessity to include Penny Parker in the whole picture.
Well,
I don't know. Huh?
well, here's something I have to say to that, and this pretty much will only make sense to us, considering we're over the moon for this movie. Is that here's a rule: not everything that can be cut from a movie is something that you should, because here I got two examples. One is The Big Lebowski. Nearly half of that movie can be cut because most of the stuff in that movie is pointless, but that's also the main point about it, so it fits. Another example, and this one might seem off at first, but the very first Godfather. Think of the whole business with the horse. Honestly, that plot ends pretty early. It's only there to be a show of power, just to get an idea of how much power the Corleones actually had. But I would never cut that scene out of the movie because it sets the tone right away. So even though it's pointless for the main story, you cannot cut that scene. And that's what I feel for a lot of this, is that even stuff I think about that, yes, could be cut, I don't think would ever be the case. And I'll get more into that and why I think that works. But yeah, I told you and Bobby and Gabby that I saw this pretty much in its work print stages. In fact,
Yes.
yeah, when I saw it, it was back in August when I lined up. I didn't know what I was getting into, but I went in and they said it was a work print for this movie. And what that meant is that half of the movie was either unfinished CG or only storyboards. In fact, the entire climax was nothing but unfinished CG and storyboards. And it still blew me away, specifically just on the script. And watching it a second time, yeah, they no, seeing it fully rendered, it was just a sight to behold. Uh, just the artistic imagination that went into it.
Oh yeah,
So
I definitely
let's
remember
talk about
hearing your reaction to it after letting us know the whole situation. And I was just that much more hyped to watch this movie, so I was really looking forward to it. Ooh. Ah, you got
Um,
anything to say, Bobby?
yeah, I mean, I could say this about the art style, but I think it goes with the whole tone and how they wrote the script. I mean, just just why? Because like I've seen two Spider-Man movies previously, Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 3, and like I like the Sam Raimi
wait,
movies,
you
but
never Man 2?
never got to
Okay.
see Spider-Man 2, and that's supposedly the really really good one, the
Oh
best of
my
the
god.
Sam Raimi trilogy. I know, cause
So
like I
you
got to see the first like and third Spider-Man movies on TV. I don't know why. Maybe I just missed out when Fox or ABC aired Spider-Man 2. I mean, if they ever aired it, let me know in the comments. But
I'd I'd say because you went straight to 3, like what? Like pretty much that means you missed out on the whole transition, the whole arc where basically James Franco knows about Spider-Man. Like that whole thing, you just kind of just jumped into that entire rivalry in the third movie.
Yeah, well, I was getting that just from watching the end of the first film. Like, I think like any holes I might have had with Spider-Man 3 were already kind of told to me by the time I saw the third Spider-Man. But anyway, my point is, when I bring those movies up, I mean, I like them just fine, but after seeing Into the Spider-Verse, I realized that this is what Spider-Man like should have been all this time in terms of how they portray Miles. And I mean, obviously it's the first big screen, or at least to come from Sony, animated Spider-Man film, and I really like how they really go with the whole comic book art style. Like, put it simply, with things like how when the way they depict the Spidey sense is when like Miles or the other or Spider-Man characters detect something wrong, you get those wavy lines like ugh, if something goes wrong. And when Miles, when he's starting to first experience the effects of getting bit by the spider, he's like, what's going on? And you actually see the comic book panel say, what's going on? Why are my thoughts so out loud? Why am I sweating so much? And of course, whenever there's action scenes, at times there will be, I think there was like one scene where they had like 3 comic book panels coming down of Miles just running down the street. And I mean, towards
Oh
the animation style, I'm just
yeah.
like, yeah, this is what an animated comic book movie should be. Like, this is what Spider-Man, at least in animation, should have been all this time. Although, yeah, I know the Sam Raimi films, again, they did, kind of throw in a bit of over-the-top style, again, trying to get in that comic book. But this really does feel like for me, as close to mixing both comic book style and mixing an animated movie. Like, it's like the best perfect marriage of those two styles I've seen in a movie to date.
And can I just say, I just absolutely love that whole comic book, um, animation, comic book style and animation style mixed in with the urban aesthetic, because
Yes.
that
I
was
think
just. Mm,
I, I think what you're going for is less urban and more specifically because the thing is pretty interesting thing is the art design itself, apart from the dotty comic book look, the two merges, which is pretty surprising, is pop art and graffiti.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I guess that's a much better way of putting it.
It's not to put it bluntly, it's like someone took a Roy Lichtenstein or Andy Warhol painting, but painted it entirely with spray cans, and it works. It works
Yes,
really
Yes.
well.
it's amazing. Ah, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for
Mm-hmm.
that. I'm not like, I guess it's sort of low key because I don't really like delve into it, but I just really love how it looks. It's just.
Yeah.
Well, you've looked into how the software works, right?
Hmm?
The software they specifically developed for this movie that Sony is trying to patent.
Oh, I don't think I have.
No,
No.
I haven't either.
Essentially, the way they got this look is that they've created a type of program where they draw they have the CG models or so, but they draw over it. So
Whoa.
all of those like sort of two-dimensional effect you get, that's directly drawn onto the CG models and backgrounds. Those aren't generated, so that's why it has that sort of look to it.
Wow. I mean,
So they basically
it's
animated
pretty
it twice.
impressive.
Yeah, they basically animated it twice to get this look.
Dang. Yeah, because it's so
Gosh.
weird. Because I remember, my dad was asking me, what did I think of Into the Spider Verse? I mean, I told you guys, and he asked me, "Oh, was it hand drawn or CG?" And I told him
It's
at
both.
first CG, but now it's like,
Yeah, yeah, I definitely see it. It was like both, and it was amazing.
mm-hmm.
I'd also say, also people have made this comparison, but also the action is very reminiscent of specifically anime. But in particular, one thing I found pretty interesting is you know how you get a lot of those. What's one of the most overused cheats when it comes to anime fights? It's speed lines,
Mm-hmm.
but like I think back to like that one scene in Horton Hears a Who where all of a sudden just speed lines appear out of nowhere. What's interesting about this movie is that all of the scenes with speed lines technically have something in the physical environment to generate those speed lines, such as either raindrops, dust, especially snow. Like in particular during the funeral sequence and the train chase, that whole sequence, you realize all of those things that look like speed lines are just snow that's rushing at them because they're going that fast. There's these
Huh,
just
I didn't
little
notice
details
that.
to that where they really thought about how these effects would transition with just the regular scenes.
Wow. I did not notice that at
Yeah, nice
all.
little detail there.
And also there's the whole stuff with the sound effects. It's not just simple boing and kazam like you saw in that one scene. Bagel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah,
even
that
played
was
around with
funny.
it.
Yeah, there was that
Oh, they
little
get
bit
really
because
creative
Peter
with
B.
that.
Barker wanted a bagel and he throws it at one of the scientists when they're trying to get that
Bagel.
computer. And then literally, yeah, it was just bagel.
Oh.
I mean, what should we get in? We talked about the animation. I don't want to get into the message yet because I feel like there's way more that we could talk about before going into the message of the film, which is really endearing. What else? Should we like go over the characters? Because like characters are it's kind of interesting to me because Gabby, you brought up the writing before where your friend said, they could have written Penny Parker out. I'm even kind of surprised with how we know very little because the thing about Into Spider-Verse, it might be I don't know if I call it a flaw. It might be a little jarring to some people, especially if they're not overly familiar with Spider-Man. But I find it amazing how they give, for some of the characters, they give very little details, with very little background on them at first, but you still get super invested in them. Like, most notably, I know, Steven, you brought up the uncle, which I did put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this video, so, you could talk all you want. But it's
Honestly, I think we'll make a whole section specifically around the theme, and that'll go back to the Uncle Peter Parker and all that stuff, all that good stuff. So
yeah.
for now, let's just talk about the surface element.
Yeah. But,
Well, I
Probably.
mean, one more note I would like to add, as far as that goes, I myself, I'm not too versed as far as the Spider-Man universe at all. I mean, more than anything, I only really knew about Gwen Stacy and um, Peter Parker, and I still had a pretty easy time following the whole plot. So I wouldn't really worry about that too much.
yeah.
Well,
Granted, I may have known that certain other characters existed, but that'd probably be it. I wouldn't say like anything in detail would really be necessary.
well, here's the thing. I didn't read a lot of the Spider-Man comics at all. My knowledge for it mainly goes to like comic story videos or comics are weird from the big picture from Movie and specifically if we're talking some older knowledge, I did like back when people used to still go to libraries. I once borrowed this one of those like DK encyclopedias, and one was specifically for Spider-Man, and they gave like brief summaries of some of the villains in there. So I'm at least aware of some of these smaller references. But one that I pretty much never knew anything about was the Prowler, which we'll get into.
Oh yeah, me
But yeah,
neither. I hadn't even heard of him before at
yeah,
all.
but everyone else I was somewhat familiar with, especially with Kingpin, just because he was um he was the best part of Daredevil. So
Yeah, see, I was a little lost there for just a moment, Like, I'm like, wait, who's he? And then I quickly go, oh, okay, this is the bad guy.
Yeah, but because that's what I mean. I'm not. What,
Oh,
Steven,
yeah,
what you say? You kind of
that's
got.
some construction in the background.
Oh, okay.
Could you
It's
repeat
all
what you said?
good. We good. Alright. Yeah, you were saying, Bobby?
No, could you? Were you gonna say something, Steven?
I think I was mostly aware of Kingpin just because I now watched the first two seasons of Daredevil, and he was the best part of that. I did. I would say like one people mentioned thing that people mentioned they kind of thought was weaker was specifically Kingpin, not because so many of his versions are so good.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but speaking of Kingpin, that's kind of what I meant when I said like after Miles got bit by the spider, we literally get like thrown into this plot about the whole collider and the first Peter Parker we met, which spoiler alert, Kingpin kills. But it's just what I mean by that is you get so details, but you're still so invested. It's like I won't get into what happens to the uncle just yet, but like for instance, we don't know too much about Uncle Aaron, right? That was his name, right? But like
We know enough.
you
We
get
know
the
enough
gist
about
that
him.
he's like he understands Miles, like he's when Miles is having beef with like most notably his dad, he goes to Uncle Aaron. And then with Kingpin, like even I had no idea who Kingpin was before I saw the movie. Like when I saw he's the bad guy. Well, clearly he's telling all the scientists to get this like particle collider moving, but like with very few details, even before his backstory, I'm just like, oh, okay, don't screw with this guy. Like very quickly, I was able to be sold on how he's this really intimidating like villain. Like
Even though people have brought up, they think his design for this movie is kind of silly. Like
I kept
he
hearing in the second viewing. In my second viewing, we were in like a decently packed theater, and you could hear people from the background screaming, "Where's his neck?"
why does he have no shoulders?
mm-hmm. Yeah, but design aside, well, I think it's something you can attribute to both the acting and the writing. He is, even though maybe not the most like complex villain, he does come off as intimidating, and you do get, why he does what he wants to do. Like this whole story is he builds this part of Collider. Basically, it's kind of like he wants to like go back in time to get his son and wife back before they leave him, right?
Oh no! Essentially, what it is that he lost his wife and son in his dimension, and basically wants to find his son and wife in any other dimension that he can
Oh, I
to live with
see.
them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's essentially taking them away from where they actually come from, which is still kind of creepy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here like, no, man, no, please don't.
We'll go back to this, but for now, let's take this back around to just the characters themselves. I mean, I think we can pretty much dedicate an entire section just to Miles. So for now, let let's let's talk about some of either the side villains and the other spider people. Like,
I mean, okay. I'm trying to remember which ones there were. I know there's that one gray guy. His name was Tombstone. Was it?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't do much. He mostly hangs around Kingpin in the comics.
Yeah, and Green Goblin, but he was a specific version of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I think it was from Ultimate, was it? Something like that? Yeah.
Same thing for the Scorpion.
Oh yeah, and Scorpion was there too, and he speaks Spanish!
Yeah, he's Mexican in this one.
Though, I couldn't understand what he was saying! And I didn't get a chance to read the... No, guys, I speak Spanish, okay? So, my boyfriend, he doesn't. He was asking me, hey, what is he saying? I'm here like, I don't know, his accent is so weird. I couldn't tell what he was saying.
Ironically, one of the villains in particular is probably the biggest spoiler because it's the only one not indicated in any of the trailers.
Which is why I didn't mention them.
Oh yes,
Not yet.
Yeah, yes. Just in case people don't know, there is one villain in particular that, unless you've seen the movie, you have no idea who it is, and it's awesome. Like that,
I was
I
so excited. I was so happy. I was like,
that one in the August preview. Like, here's the funny thing: all of the no, all of her scenes were completely unrendered. So it was it was pretty silly to watch when we saw it because the way it was in the preview, like the glasses you were like entirely blank. The face didn't make any expressions, and yeah, but even with that, like when we first got the reveal, everyone was like, "What?"
I think
And
I
I
know
know
who
that's
you're talking
exactly
about.
myself.
Yeah, which
it should be pretty obvious. I mean, for those who've watched the movie.
Yeah, that scene, like just how quickly that transitions to oh shit is just incredible.
I mean, like, I'm a person who, like, falls for twists, like, pretty easily, so I was kind of thinking because, like, there's quite a few twists into the Spider-Verse, but I'm kind of wondering, could like, anybody see them coming, or am I just dumb and I just fall for twists all the time and can't see them coming?
I wouldn't say they're pretty obvious. I wouldn't say that at all. I just so happened to kind of pick up on it. I don't know if there were a few cues. There were a few cues, like when I got to rewatch it, I noticed how, especially around this character, you could notice a specific shape following her around in design. So I was like, oh, that's why I kept getting that feeling. Okay. You know, it was just kind of like a bit of foreshadowing, but it's really, really hard to pick up on. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, you won't get a feeling for it, but like, you won't know why you have that feeling, even if you do.
By the way, there is technically two twist villains in this movie, and both of them, yeah, Disney needs to take some notes when it comes to their twist villains in this case, because this pretty much cemented that, yeah, a lot of them suck in the Disney movies, both with Pixar and their main branch.
Which, in the case of Disney, I think it's just more now feels like every Disney and Pixar movie that comes out, there's going to be a twist villain, whether it be Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph. Incredibles 2 is kind of obvious in my opinion, and Coco, which that's kind of my take on it.
I don't know. I thought at least I thought it worked decently in Coco. I will admit, I mean, I won't say it was like the best thing ever, but it was okay. It was okay.
Now, I'm just saying that it's a plot device they just seem to use again and again and again and again, and now it's like, well, I'm going to expect a twist villain because it's a 2010s Disney movie, so they're going to do it.
But in this case, here, they already give a villain to follow, and then everything after that is a surprise because you're focused so much on that. Like, you don't expect a twist villain. There already is a villain.
Yeah, that's my feeling too, because like, you know, for all this time, I wouldn't say that like, you know, I was just thinking, okay, Kingpin is the focal point. I was just like, well, he's probably gonna have people along the way. But when the twists come, I was like, you know, what? I didn't see this coming. Which I'm sure somebody's gonna say, you didn't see this coming. Like, I'm just like saying there's people out there that, you know, I'm sure can spot, you know, these twist ones coming. But, you know, when they did come,
but don't have to be a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough from most of the villains. Let's go into the heroes, and this one has several of them. What are your thoughts on all of the Spider people, barring Miles, because we'll dedicate a whole section to him.
Bobby, do you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I really don't just want to say how I feel about them on like a surface, level, like, we're talking about Spider-Gwen. First of all, like, again, as, somebody who hasn't been, like, catching up all that much in the Spider-Man universe, I know why you're giving that look, Stephen, but, like, I was, like, surprised. Like, I knew there was gonna be multiple Spider-Man, but I didn't know they would come from these really, like, these really, drastic backgrounds. Like, I didn't know there was, like, Spider-Man Noir and Peter Parker and, Penny Parker. Like, again, as a person, like, on first glance, I thought, oh, were they just made for this movie? Because they seem, really out of place. But it's like, no, like, I did my research after I saw the movie and just like,
Honestly,
they're a thing.
Honestly, the newest one I think is Penny Parker, Spider-Gwen a bit before that. Like, probably the oldest one of the group is actually Spider-Ham.
Yep. I remember. I mean, I got to see a few issues with him on the cover only because I frequented comic book shops recently, like when I started going to community college. So I knew there was a Spider-Ham, so that didn't really catch me off guard. But I was just like, I thought they had done it because of the Simpsons movie, so I legit called him. I was calling him Spider-Man.
Yeah, man. I told you about this, but in one of the comics, Spider-Ham really does not like being referred to as Spider-Pig in any dimension.
So yeah, don't do it, guys. Don't do it.
I will say one thing. Okay, I didn't watch a lot of this, but I did see a bit because they did do a Spider-Verse-esque story in one of the cartoons, one of the more modern cartoons. I think it might even be the Disney endorsed one. But one thing I do have to say is that both the versions of Miles and Spider-Ham they have in this version are a lot more interesting than the version they had in that one. Because in the version for that one, Miles is kind of just there. Like his only real identifiable moment in that episode was that he was surprised to see Peter Parker was alive, which that's only a segment over here. And as for Spider-Ham in the cartoon for that one is just kind of cheesy. And in this one, it's like because they really amped up with his sort of Looney Tune-esque, like fast talking, just insanely goofy antics. It gave him a lot more energy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also one thing I'd say regarding the reason why I don't think those characters are pointless. Well, in the plot they're pointless, but here's one thing they did focus on is that having those three in particular, if you include Spider-Gwen, is it showed just how different each of them are, and specifically with animation, because they represent an entirely different style for each one. Because there's even more Spider people that they could choose from, but they specifically picked those because those actually have different styles in animation that they could pick and choose from.
Yeah, I mean, definitely three of the more identifiable ones, and also I would say three of the ones that I definitely didn't see coming. I don't know what I was expecting in terms of like, well, what did you? Because like I knew it was going to be about more than one Spider-Man because I saw the trailer and Miles says at the end, wait, there's more than one in this world. So I thought it was gonna be like super subtle differences, going with the whole alternate dimension thing, where it's like, yeah, they're similar, but they come from different dimensions and they're slightly different. So for me, seeing that they're, they, come from really drastic animation styles, Spider-Man Noir obviously, has, that kind of film noir sort of look, like he,
which by the
black
way,
with the fedora. And I know, yes, he's voiced by Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage. In one of the best roles he's had in some time. He is awesome in this movie.
Did you recognize? I didn't recognize.
Oh yeah. Oh
yes,
yeah.
How would I not? I will admit, I'm kind of a suck. I'm a pretty big sucker for Nicolas Cage. Okay, yes. If he's in a movie, I will definitely, want to watch it.
I don't know. Maybe I
So
just know Nicolas
I
Cage.
didn't know he was gonna be in this movie. So when I heard him, I was like, "Wait, you're here!"
Yeah, because the only time I knew it was Nicolas Cage when it said in the credits, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought he played Peter or the other Peter Parker, but it's like no, he played Spider-Man Noir. Like I know, like Cage usually talks in this kind of dry sort of voice. Maybe I just associate him more for like when he loses his shit, like when he has OCD in Matchstick Men or something like that.
But I thought that line was so cool because you get used to hearing him like that, and it kind of becomes like just the same person taking different roles, and everyone just recognizes them as the actor, not even the character. But here, it's such a good change of pace. I mean, the voice acting that he did really fit the character in the way they wrote him.
Mm-hmm.
So I was even that more glad to see him or hear him in the movie. So yes, yes, more Nicolas Cage, please. All the Nicolas Cage.
If there's any comic book that he really represents, like probably the closest parallel is Sin City, like specifically with that.
I could definitely see him there.
Frank Miller heavy silhouette look to it.
Oh yeah.
Meanwhile, yeah, my Twitter has gone because I hang out a lot in specifically anti-Twitter. They have gone insane over Penny Parker. It is madness.
Oh gee.
Like I just see a bunch of profile pictures that are nothing but Penny Parker in specific faces, mostly pretty angry.
Why am I not surprised? Why am I not surprised? Oh.
To be really honest, first of all, my sister's name is Penny. So, like, when I told her there's a Penny Parker, now she's looking at me weird off camera. So she's like, oh, there's a Penny Parker. I gotta be honest, I'm kind of confused by Penny Parker. So, wait a minute. So, the only thing about her is that, unlike... She keeps giving me that look. Like,
we're talking about a movie. We're not talking about you. Don't worry.
Yeah, but the thing about her is, unlike the other Spider people, they all wear the suit and go around swinging. Does Penny Parker just work by like sitting in this like round-shaped mech all this time? Like that's how she.
Pretty much.
Well, that's the thing. Like the whole thing that the spider comes in is that she got bit by one that she developed a psychic connection with. Is that how they say it?
Pretty much, the spider has his own. The spider has his own robot,
and he lives in the robot that the dad made.
Yes, that's right. I remember seeing the spider.
Yes. So, yeah.
But I'm just trying. How does it affect Penny Parker herself?
She can basically control it with her mind.
With the spider.
Okay, so basically the Spider-Man version of Pacific Rim.
Sort of, with a spider.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
It is an interesting dynamic because unlike the other spider people, this is essentially one that has a buddy.
Oh
yeah, as we could clearly see by the end of Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, the rest of them slapped theirs.
Oh yeah, like Miles.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'd also say like for a character that if you look at the comic, it's very clear they did a huge redesign because she looks a bit more like sort of like a teen or definitely late middle school kind of character. Like they don't overly go kawaii on her design like they do in the movie. But I was surprised that despite her introduction that they show in the trailer, there are actually a lot of segments where it shows her getting angry or kind of annoyed in her expressions, and it
Oh.
actually works out. Like you would think just based on that design that it'd be all like, oh come on, let's not fight her so. But she had probably one of the most savage lines during that whole during that whole sort of montage sequence where all of the spider people keep on asking Miles if he can do this, if he can do that.
Oh.
What was that line
Wait,
again?
which one are we talking about? Which line?
I have to look it up, but it just none of them really hold back, and she in particular, it was something tech related that you
Oh
have to
yeah,
like
can
put this
it was
all
like can
together.
you rewire
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
the mainframe while being shot at?
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
that's
the
Something
what
one.
she's.
along those lines? Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just taking in the moment
That
about like,
line did
oh, you
stand
guys are
out.
really, putting pressure on Miles about, can you do this and things like that.
Oh.
I guess if there is one thing people might have problems about is that that segment feels like it almost comes a bit too soon. Like they're harping way too hardly on him the first time they meet him.
Yeah, I would say so,
Kind of.
especially for a character introduction. It's just like, you really going there? I guess it felt in that way. It's like I guess I feel conflicted on that because we already seen Miles. I mean, throughout the movie, he's even though he goes along with the plan, he himself doesn't feel prepared, which leads to one of the I'm not gonna lie, I really tear jerking moments in the movie for me. He but yeah, I definitely feel like got that feeling of oh, you guys are really hammering in that this is one hell of a job.
Is it?
Although it did lead to some of Nick Cage's best lines, like the moral ambiguity and such.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, one of the thoughts I had at that moment was, wait, are they trying to teach him, or are they just going to test him? Like, shouldn't they
without
be
even
trying to help him figure out how to use these powers instead of seeing if he just can?
without even trying to train him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I was
especially
kind of
since
weirded out by that. I was like,
yeah,
huh?
and I think for me, especially since both Peter B. Parker and Spider Gwen, who we'll get into in a second, they already kind of know him and they know he's not exactly like at least Miles, he's still not exactly sure of himself yet, you know.
That's true. That's true. But that's why I thought, like, more than anything, Gwen was going to, slow everyone down and say, "Hey guys, why don't we try helping him figure out how these things, how his powers work?" So I
Mm-hmm.
was a little confused there, but I mean, it didn't really hinder
No, it
on the
didn't.
story itself. It was just kind of like, okay, let's do
It
this.
would have been nice to see more. That's really all it amounts to.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
that'd
to be
probably
fair, it
be
does,
bottom
kind of
line.
play into how, it does build up that, they do make this, this kind of threaten the weight of the job. It is, it does give weight to it.
And
I'll
to
give it
be
that.
fair, you don't really have that much time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that too. Oh, alright. And what next? What next,
What
guys?
next?
I think Spider Ham was the last one of the ones introduced there. Then we can move on to Spider Gwen and the Peter Parkers. But yeah, Spider Ham. I really feel like I need to figure out more of this particular stand-up comedian because he made me laugh consistently throughout it.
I
Just
watched, like, it was John Mulaney that played
yeah, John Mulaney.
John Mulaney. Yeah, I watched one of his skits in one of my college comedy classes. I remember he did this skit about how he's been confused for an Asian guy, but that's basically all I really know about him. I thought the skit was funny, but it was one skit. But yeah, he
Aw.
did a good job playing Spider-Ham in the film. He really
Oh
got that
yeah,
kind
he
of
was really funny.
cartooniness to him.
I like when they do the origin story for Spider-Ham. I noticed what you were talking about on the second viewing. I saw that I was like, oh.
Are you
So
talking
yeah, they
about?
did. He was bitten by he's a spider that was bitten by a
A
radioactive
radioactive
pig and
pig.
thus became a pig.
Nice twist on the Spider-Man origin story. It's not a pig that got bit by the spider.
Use
Oh.
that during trivia. Like how did Spider-Ham get his powers? Oh, he was bitten by a radioactive spider.
It
You
It's a
know,
radioactive
was a
pig.
pig.
yeah. I mean,
Which,
I'm thinking
which
of going back to Long Beach Comic Expo this coming year. If I come across any Spider-Man fans, I'll be sure to quiz them on that. Which,
No.
speaking of which, of how like amazing this supporting cast is, I hope that with all the cosplayers I see at like Long Beach Comic Expo or WonderCon, it's like I better see people dressing up as all these. And I feel like now that Spider-Verse is out, we're gonna see a lot more people dressing up as not just Spider-Man, but also, I really want to meet somebody who cosplays as like Spider-Gwen or Spider-Man Noir, especially if all these like people that like to do these fusion sort of cosplays. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
remember when I was at WonderCon earlier this year, I came across this one person who was like a mix of Darth Vader and Lady Tremaine, Cinderella's stepmother. So it's just like somebody is gonna dress up as Spider and Noir, or somebody's gonna do like Spider Gwen. I just know. Oh, I hope to see that.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
let's actually. You mentioned Spider-Gwen. I'd say outside of Peter Parker and Miles, she is probably the third most important in this film because she
Yeah.
instantly brings just a fresh new taste the moment she springs on screen. In fact, actually, if you rewatch that scene when she shows up at the investigation from the lab, you can actually see her in the background taking care of the henchmen.
I know there was
Wait,
that
taking
one
care of
bit.
the
I think
henchmen?
she was like walking around in the lab in disguise.
Yeah, but if you look back at that moment where Miles and Peter are trying to escape right outside of the lab, and they have those henchmen shooting lasers at them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're wondering, wait, why did they stop shooting? Did they just run too fast? No, you can actually see in the background, like way along the edges, Spider-Gwen is swinging around taking care of them.
Oh
So
wow!
yeah.
I watched it twice and I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Dang.
I noticed that like the moment I came into this one, because like, wait, is that? Oh, I see it over there. But I shut
Yeah,
off.
this
So
movie is so much about like
Nice
Easter eggs
touch.
and plucking out details.
Woo.
Definitely sounds like a movie that's worth seeing twice. I mean, Gabby, you even saw it twice and you didn't pick up on everything,
Nope.
even from the second viewing. Holy crap!
No. Yeah. Oh
but
jeez.
but yeah, Spider-Gwen already just from the response, like just like when she came around during the comics, like she uh she worked as a really good representation of just the sort of the modern teenage girl, if you get what I mean.
Yes,
Like
she does.
like there is a bit of like that tomboy feel that you get from the Emma Stone version in the two Amazing Spider-Man films, but there's there is like right down to just how she moves throughout her swinging, her fighting style, and even that she's probably the only Spider person in there that actually uses ballet shoes. Like
Oh yeah.
like it still manages to capture some of those feminine qualities that make her stand out, so that she's not just someone wearing the spider suit essentially. Which, by the way, a lot of people love her spider suit design. Like they
Yeah,
really did.
yeah, that you were
Yeah.
talking about the tomboy. Yeah, especially with the hood. The hood, it's just like that's a really great design.
Oh, it is definitely. Ooh. And that's part of where she developed some of her skills too, because she supposedly had like a background in dancing.
dancing, and she's currently like she's actually around like early college age according to the comic book, and at that point she's like you saw her playing the drums. She's actually in a band
yeah,
as well.
in a
So it's
band,
like
yeah.
she's got several different interests in mind, which another thing that really makes it stand out. Though, despite her being pretty much competent at everything, watching it a second time, I did
I'll be
did
right back, guys. Just a
okay.
moment.
I really dug just how sort of awkward she was trying to hide her identity from Miles.
Really? I honestly couldn't pick up on that. Like, I honestly, again, not knowing too much about this movie, I thought that Gwen Stacy's role was going to be very similar to past Spider-Man movies, but it's like, nope, she comes from this alternate place where it's like Gwen and, Peter Parker switched around in terms of who's the hero and who's the love interest.
Well, the case with Peter Parker is the way Peter Parker died in this one is Peter Parker died in her universe wasn't like yeah.
I am back.
Yes,
Oh.
I was just about to say what's different about.
Sorry, that was my parents. They're heading out for a karaoke night. They're gonna be hosting it at a restaurant.
Oh man. Well, I was just talking about what's different about Peter Parker in Spider-Gwen's universe is that the way Gwen Stacy died, you probably heard of it at least, is that Green Goblin ends up, killing her. Like she falls from a roof and died. But the way Peter Parker died in her universe, he didn't die like Gwen Stacy died. What happened was he went through severe bullying and then tried to make himself the Lizard, and so basically that's how he died. Spider-Gwen was fighting him off because Peter Parker lost control.
Dang.
I could tell it had something to do with the Lizard just because, like, in the movie, you could see his body had, like, a bunch of scales growing out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, though. I didn't know that.
Yes, there's just a lot of text to it. Like, it's not that they just switched Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. Gwen Stacy really had it. The Spider-Gwen version really has her own flavor to it, and that goes to both how many interests she keeps up, how for the most part she's pretty sociable out of all of them, and
yeah.
And while she had a lot going against her, this is one thing that stands out between her and Peter Parker. Peter Parker does not have his shit together at all.
No,
and
not
does.
Peter B. Parker,
and
no.
That's a good transition into Peter B. Parker, because there are two Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really great about that is that a lot of people complain in retrospect that Tobey Maguire in the Sam Raimi movie, while they like him a lot, they maybe focus too much on him being pathetic or getting shit on. Whereas with the Amazing Spider-Man movie, they make him basically an asshole so that he just seems like he's posing. And like a lot of people really like Spider-Man Homecoming. Like I think it's all right. Gabby, I think you liked it a lot as well. It definitely.
Yeah, it was all right. It was fun.
It definitely captured like a more innocent kind of young high school Peter Parker, but none of them really captured that full balance between like constantly not having their shit together, so kind of pathetic as Peter Parker, but also really competent and almost egotistical when he is actually Spider-Man. By having one that has pretty much the perfect life, we actually managed to see what Peter Parker could be at his peak. And then we get introduced to basically hobo Peter Parker.
Or depressed Peter Parker.
Yeah. His whole backstory is just like, okay, if Spider-Man grew up, how bad can his life turn out? And the movie answered, this bad.
Yeah.
He is an absolute wreck as an adult. And
let's see what happens.
He gets in some bad business deal. Yeah, he gets in some bad business deals.
business decisions. He
can-
lets himself go physically.
Yeah, like
And
he's
he
sitting in
loses
bed
Mary
eating a
Jane.
pizza.
Yeah.
And he loses Mary Jane because he doesn't want to have kids.
All while being in denial.
Oh yeah, like his backstory in particular, like there's no romanticism. Actually, there's maybe too much romanticism to the point of straight up lying.
Yup.
Like,
Yup.
like here I am, just like working on my CrossFit and everything, and meanwhile, what you're seeing is him lying on the floor eating pizza,
Mm-hmm.
or him crying in the shower. It's like don't worry, it didn't affect me.
Yeah, he's crying like
his
in the
spider
shower in the
suit,
spider suit.
all while still in his spider suit.
Yeah, that scene right there. Like that is just the perfect fusion of awe and ha ha ha.
Or when he's like all depressed in his bed and he's full on in suit, his phone's going off, potentially something important. He just lifts off his mask, see who it is, and then puts his mask back on. So I'm like,
Or how one of his first advice to Miles is to use baby powder on the suit because it stinks.
you don't want any chafing.
And I especially love just Miles' reaction to seeing this guy. It's like why did I get stuck with all the Spider-Men in the universe? Why did I get stuck with the hobo? The hobo that has a dad bod wearing gym pants.
Sweatpants.
Yeah, he wears
Yeah,
sweatpants.
sweatpants.
I remember
Sweatpants.
to see him.
Like that's the shit that I wear. That's what Spider-Man should wear.
Oh my gosh. He's still a pretty good character nonetheless. It's
Yeah,
like
like
you
he's
enjoy
basically
seeing all of
Miles'
this while
mentor.
watching it. Let's
Oh yeah,
keep that clear.
he serves as both the mentor and a cautionary tale. Like
Yeah.
whatever you do, don't end up like this
The
guy.
bread!
It's
Oh,
like
and that really
typical
cringy
situation
joke.
where they tell you learn from other people's mistakes.
Or it's like do as I say, not as I do.
Not as I do,
Mhm.
yeah.
Surprisingly, here's the thing. A lot of all the characters I've actually seen a positive reception from specifically female users, it's actually Spider Dad because they really like how kind of pathetic he is. Like you just want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we know life is tough, Peter.
Or when he sees the Mary Jane in the universe.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing up.
Oh
The
yeah,
bread.
Like,
I'm
cringy,
no, man,
yes,
don't
but
make a fool of
entertaining,
yourself
definitely.
like that, man.
Yeah.
it's yeah, that whole scene is just like both when I saw it in the preview and in this one, I had to kind of I had to cover my face or so just because of how cringy that scene is, but in a good way. Like you get why he do it, but it's still hard to watch.
Mhm.
But
For you, they should fill this whole place up with fresh bread.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I got that sort of feeling of, oh no, that kind of cringy, but at the same time, I
That
mean,
is so
it's hilarious enough that
And Gwen's
just like,
over
I have
there
to
telling
see
him,
how
no,
it ends.
man, no,
Yeah.
don't do it, man.
This is not your
Get a hold
dimensions,
of
Mary
yourself.
Jane, and chill out.
it's that scene from Bug's Life, except the lamp actually comes to you. Don't look at the light. I can't sleep it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but yeah, now I remember that scene from Bug's Life. I used to watch that movie a
Mhm.
lot as a kid.
But I will say, what really, I think the reason why Spider Dad, I think, even works better than Tobey Maguire is that they specifically focus on, yeah, he sucks at being Peter Parker. He's actually pretty competent just as Spider-Man. He has that whole, like, when he has that whole plan to actually steal the plans from Alchemax, he has this all planned out. like it's almost like, yeah, he's been doing this for over a decade. He can practically do this in his sleep. So you don't really get that frustrating feeling of like, oh, why? I ought to slap you for just how much you're fucking up. No, specifically when it comes to his job, he's fine. It's just he's a wreck as a person.
Yeah,
right
his
now.
personal life, like, he's very capable here, but his personal life, it's
that's a big wreck. That's a huge wreck right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but specifically because he's actually used to being Spider-Man, he actually does serve as a pretty great mentor. Like right on the job as they're about to explain. Like, okay, there's always a time for learning. Here's the web shooter. Now, hurry up and follow. Just get this right. And even though he's being a dick about it, like, okay, kind of thing, like, hey, you can do this, just not as good as me, but you can still do it.
Oh, what was it? The line he's like, "I is the mentor who can do it, and you is the student
who can do it not as well."
Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's the one that pretty much is trying to sell Miles to the rest of the Spider people. Like, no, trust me, he can do this.
Right now.
Yeah, I definitely remember there would be times where Spider Dad, I guess we now have to call him, is like, yeah, I know this kid, I can talk to him, and the rest of them are like, are you sure?
He's like, yeah, he'll be coming in any moment, just refreshed and ready to do stuff. Or that part where he's like, where they're watching Miles when he's already like full on Spider-Man suit, using his powers, and he's like, we taught him that.
No, and Spider-Gwen's like, no, you didn't. That's especially what I like about Spider-Gwen is that she's one of the most rational characters. Like, that's specifically what stands out about her compared to the Peter Parker parallel. That she's probably the one character who doesn't fuck up, to put it bluntly.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that's setting people straight, or even making some of the last minute saves. Like,
oh yeah. And she just works so well as a foil to Peter B. Parker, I feel. It's just really funny to see them interact.
And specifically to Miles, they established that very early. They established that very early and keep that thread going.
Oh.
Well, so I guess that's a good transition to specifically with Miles, because this is the reason why I went through this through my Stardust review, but specifically his arc is why I think they're able to have so many Spider people and still make it work. Because we can finally just say it out right now. He lives in a universe where essentially the competent savior Spider-Man dies. So we see him early on as a teen who's torn between his more rebellious side with his passion for graffiti and some of his more better opportunities because he has a cop for a dad and is pretty smart all around. And then on top of that, you add on to that expectation of him having to live up to the Spider-Man name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that really cuts to the core of, I think why both me and Gabby, really, really liked the portrayal of Miles in this movie, because as they make, like, as you said, Gabby, when we walked out of this movie, like, they make his journey feel so, like, freaking relatable in terms of how, he's got, he's got his friends who at times can, really, like, hammer in how, the weight of this job. There's something about how they were able to portray it and really make, his, like, I would say even more than the Sam Raimi movies, how they made, like, this whole, like, the weight of his job, like, identifiable, and how, great the threat, could be. And even down to how, I won't say how he learns this lesson that, he can't always save everybody. It's that kind of pressure.
And I think it fits so well with the idea that they want to bring about in this movie. And I hope I don't know if it's a good time to get into this, but like, you know how they say, they keep mentioning in the movie how anyone can be Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And
And
that's
you really
why, and that's why I feel, yeah, and that's why I feel that friend of yours is pretty much wrong in his statement. Because yes, well, he's right. Anyone else could have taken those specific roles in the story, but they serve as a specific example and like bits of a spectrum with like, yes, anyone can be Spider-Man. Look at just how different all of these are, including the one in the cameo at the very end of the movie.
Yeah,
Oh
Spider-Man
yeah.
2099.
Yeah, like it's using them as a graph to show like, hey, it can turn into this one, into this one, into this one. It all circles around into that message of like, here's all of these different Spider-Man. Now, which kind of Spider-Man are you gonna be?
Mhm.
And
And
the
the big
feeling
part
that
of
there is no right or wrong answer because you can come up with your own sort of twist on the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, and that's why it's so great that we had characters like For me, that's where the necessity of characters like Penny Parker and even like like Spider Ham comes in, or Spider Man Noir. I mean, at the surface, yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but it gets the crux of the message of the story. It's funny when I was like working on the intro for this review. Not to bring up my sis again, but we were gonna make a Spider-Man version of our logo, of the Blood Moon Bobby logo, and she was like, well, how's he gonna spit out the webs? He can't just spit it out. That's not Spider-Man like. But it's just like, but if the context of this movie, anybody could be Spider. So really, anything goes, especially because my icon doesn't have arms and legs.
Interesting point to note.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
I think
you kind of see how at times even Miles seems to question the whole deal as to, are you guys sure about that? Cause I don't know, man. I feel like I got something going wrong here. Feel like something's missing, But in the end, it's just a matter of, time, practice, lack thereof, and I don't know, just kind of a bit of faith. I think that's another thing they really work off of there too,
Hmm. Yeah, and
because that's kind of why they sort of push uh Miles so hard at certain points of the story, just because they all seem to kind of already know it. It takes a little bit of like a push to really
mhm.
get that aspect of it going.
Yeah, I mean that
Um,
part really, like, I don't know what it really spoke to me as, like, I'm a person who was always kind of like Miles, always questioning, when will I be ready? When will I know? Where's that point of being ready? And Peter B. Parker literally says, "You won't know. You just have to take a leap of faith." Like, it's your Jurgen line for me. I mean, that really sweet. Like, that's so relatable.
like here like that's the thing.
exactly.
Like I'd really say why I think this movie in particular I think will respond better to people than the Sam Raimi movies or even Homecoming is that the the specific inner conflict it's going for is I don't know who I want to be, and the answer is you won't know until you like not to rip off from Zootopia until you try everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that specific message would work a lot better for especially teenagers than with some of Peter Parker's struggles.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Cause that's one of the big questions you have. I mean, you get into high school, one of the main questions they ask you, you go into class and they're like, "Hey kids, What are you gonna go into when you go to college? Are you gonna go to college? You're gonna go to college, right?
Well,
Yeah.
in this case, like you're gonna be Spider-Man, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, going back
And
to
they
what.
even have that kind of like parallel in the movie too, where you have Miles going into what was it, a private school? And I think that was another thing I personally could relate to as well because um I was never really big in academics, especially when I was younger. Um but in middle school, uh I don't know, things happened. I got a lot of help, and I actually did my very best in middle school, and that was kind of how I ended up in the high school that I did end up in. So looking at that, I was like, oh wow, this took me back to thinking like, hey, oh wow, well, am I good enough for this? I mean, you kind of there, and you feel out of place, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, man. Can I stand up to this? I wasn't prepared like everyone else who's here. And I got to see so many people in the same situation. Uh, so I could definitely see how that was, very, very relatable for a lot of people in that sense too. Kind of like bringing it in with the whole Spider-Man deal too, because it's like, he's got this going from more than one angle, and the whole parents trying to push him too with, the dad is like, I see the spark in you, it's like, I just get so excited because I see so much potential in you and you can do so much. That's why I push you so hard.
That's one thing that I gotta say regarding his parallels to Peter Parker. That's one thing that specifically stands about him is that his Uncle Ben moment is kind of from both the death both the death of someone else and something someone alive said to him. Like specifically with Peter Parker is when he was alive, Uncle Ben said, "With great power comes great responsibility," and then Uncle Ben dies because Peter Parker was not responsible.
Mhm.
But in this case, it's like he looks up to both sides. But in the case of Uncle Aaron, he finds out the what the side that actually was supporting him in sort of a more liberating way is actually the one now almost trying to kill him, and that one particularly struck hard because it um what of what really I think a lot of the Disney twist villains don't work that this specifically has is it shows just how much a prior connection can almost be tainted by someone revealing something that they've been hiding.
Yeah, especially yeah, because when I think back to a lot of the Disney twists, they often come from like characters that we sort of know a little bit about, but they didn't have that sort of intimate connection. Again, maybe the closest would be like Hans from Frozen, and I would say Ernesto from Coco. But yeah, I definitely had that feeling when that scene happened in Into the Spider-Verse.
And yet,
But even
despite
then,
all of that,
bringing up,
oh, go on, go on.
but even then, bringing in those examples, you have like with Hans, you see how ridiculous it seems, meriting that sort of connection between him and Anna because they've just barely met.
Mm-hmm.
And with Ernesto de la Cruz, you have to keep in mind, uh, um, what? Oh gosh, I'm drawing a huge blank right now. Miguel. There we go. Miguel has never met Ernesto de la Cruz in person.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. Ever at all. And Uncle Aaron, Miles has grown up with him. He's looked up to him. They've had intimate talks. And that
Mm-hmm.
is something that neither of these two other characters have ever had.
I'd also say even with that in mind, like here's the thing. He even by the very end, you still want him redeemed, and it's hard to watch him go down the way that he does, because he does not blame Miles for thinking the way he does, or that he ended up like this. Is that no, he's the one that failed him, because he's the one that was supposed to be the one to encourage him, to have him more open, and look at how he is right now. But at the same time, he throughout most of the movie is downright terrifying at points. Like I've been listening to the soundtrack on repeat in particular. His theme song, the way it just echoes like almost a fire siren, is just terrifying.
Oh wow. But yeah, it's a very good point as well, and that kind of like switch is just so extreme, because it's like, even the person who is making the switch is realizing, wow, this is extremely messed up.
But you still really dig it, because like obviously if you look at the amount of time they spend on him, in any other movies you can just go, yeah, he's the villain, whatsoever. But the two moments he shared with Miles, with the spray painting and the advice on girls, is just so. It feels like the kind of conversations you'd have with your actual uncles. That it's good enough to endear you, to where you don't want him to die or to turn bad. Because let's be honest, like that whole scene with him telling Miles, like, you know what, next time you meet her, you just put your shoulder and just say,
hey.
And of course, Miles fails.
Miles is failing drastically at trying to pull it off, and it's just like, are you sure you're my cousin? Are you sure you're my nephew?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I meant earlier. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I meant earlier when I was talking about, we only really get one scene with, like, Uncle Aaron, but it works so well. Well, again, kind of like what
because it establishes very well the kind of relationship that he and Miles have.
Which props to Mahershala Ali, because ever since Moonlight, he's just been on a roll, just one role after the other. I can't wait to see him in Alita now after this.
Wait, same actor, really?
Oh yeah, he's gonna be in Alita as one of the villains. But I first saw him through Moonlight, and then he turned up in this year's for Green Book, and I just loved him in everything I've seen him in. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite actors.
That's gonna be the one with the that one robot girl with the big eyes, right?
Yeah, he's gonna play one of the major villains in that.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh, and I haven't gotten the chance to watch Moonlight, but I knew from when it came out, and people were talking about it, that it was a really good film.
Honestly, here's the thing: the one reason why I say La La Land is better than Moonlight is that Mahershala Ali only shows up in the first third of that movie, and even though the rest of the movie is good, he is by far the best part of that movie. So you feel something is lost just watching the next two acts without him.
Sounds like Captain Spaulding in House of a Thousand Corpses. Because that's pretty much how I felt with that. I'm like, dang it! We need more of him!
I'd also say, like,
let's go back on to the topic at hand.
Yeah, but like just that parallel. You got two father figures from different backgrounds. Well, not different backgrounds, because they all grew up together, but they turned to drastically different life choices, and yet both of them kind of have an effect on Miles. And Bobby specifically talked about the line he says that echoed with him, is that's the one time where essentially the dad finally stops being uptight for once and admits, like, even before then, that phone call he mentions to Aaron, where it's like, he had I know we haven't been on the best of terms, but I know he sees a lot in you, so if he's there, can you give me a call? And he just kind of loosens up on his his grasp over Miles at that point. And I thought that was a really good way to transition into him finally taking his role as Spider-Man, especially when he finally releases the Venom shock on
Oh
Will,
yeah.
Mhm.
which goddamn, like that's already something that stands out about Miles: invisibility and electric shock. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
And I especially like how that turns around during the final fight with the hay.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
Such
like
good
how
that was
that's the
Such
last
good
punch he gives
payoff.
Kingpin. It's like, oh, and one more thing. Hey. Nice way to turn it all
Oh.
around. Yeah, especially it really now it really hits me, like, as we're talking about this and how, it was actually, Aaron that tells Maya, he initially gives him that advice, and then it comes back, and that's the final, ironically, it's the final blow to Kingpin at the end of the movie. Like, coming from, what happens to his uncle, it's just like, that makes that scene so much more, like, impactful. It's like, wow, you so
Oh, it's so
was influenced.
true.
In a strange way, it defeated Kingpin, but, with
Although
that additional
admittedly,
context.
like the first time he used the hay, basically it failed epically. Which that's the moment when that happened. It's just like, ooh, this is gonna end badly. And then like once we see how the haircut went, I just love how that just goes like, yeah, nice. And it's like you don't get to talk about my haircut.
You don't get to like my haircut. Oh.
Ironically, the purpose of the hay, he didn't really have to use it to have Gwen like him. After
Yeah.
all,
No.
Aw.
they just had to punch a supervillain together.
Yeah, pretty much.
Works just as good. Works just as good. Ooh. I think I've said nearly anything I could come up to say. But you guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I
pretty much.
I say one last thing that we've kind of just been darting around on. Specifically, I really want to just get your release your thoughts on Spider-Gwen and Miles Morales as a ship, because we know Blood Moon Bobby here is all about Starco. So let's give a gauge over the ship counter on this one.
Well, you're asking me because, well,
I'm asking
the way
everyone.
ships work for me, like is really an incredibly subjective subject to the point where it's just me being a fanboy, and like basically I'm really saying the name of the ship, Gwiles. Well, fits for me. I mean, well, that's how ships
Gwen
work.
Miles.
Gwen Miles, I think. I don't think the ship name really stuck.
Yeah.
I would just call it Gwen Miles. I mean, I think for me it hits me on kind of a more objective level of, yeah, this could work. I mean, they do share, for the share scenes they share together, like when they first meet, and even when, we find out that Gwen is actually Spider-Gwen. I mean, I'm just it kind of strikes me in how I feel about Dip, Wendy / Dipper from
Okay.
Gravity Falls, and that sort of, yeah, it's cute. Although I will say with when Dip, because it kind of strikes me on it strikes such a chord with me. I'm just like, oh, it didn't go anywhere. Sorry, the Pipika fans.
Also, for people who are going apeshit over like, she's older than him. That's gross. She's only about maybe 15 months older than him. That's not a big deal, guys.
That's like a few months more than a year. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait, I thought that Dipper was like 13 and
Oh no, we're
Wendy's
talking about Gwen.
No.
Oh, Gwen
Gwen
Miles. Okay.
And Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look
Wendy's
nearly the
definitely
same
old.
age. It's like,
Yeah.
Essentially 1 year difference.
I even love how Gwen tries to use that as leverage against him when they're about to say goodbye. It's like, I'm older than you, right? Like maybe 15 months.
But still.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but that didn't stop Katang's ship from sinking to the bottom of the ocean.
That's a whole different context.
Angus fought Katara is 14. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, here's the thing. Angus technically 1,000 years old, so.
120. But you get what I mean. He's still a kid.
Technicalities.
Well, actually, here's the thing. Like a lot of probably the first thing that pops out is like, oh, white girl, black guy. But really, there is a lot of parallels between Miles and Gwen. Like, unlike Peter Parker, they both kind of have their shit together. They actually both have cop parents, if you think about it.
Actually,
yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, but aside from that, though, like right from the moment where it's like I just love, like, just from the start, like the first interaction is like Miles makes a really lame joke and Gwen actually laughed at it. That it wasn't funny, but that's why I laughed. It's just there's just something really cute about that, like that they're aware what they said might not be as funny as they thought they said, but they still kind of find that funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it brings to mind that saying that they have where it's like, find that person that makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to be funny, they just need to make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that actually reminded me. Even that joke pays off around the end. The specific when they're about to say, guys, like, I'm older than you, right? 15 months older. Well, time is relative, right?
By the way, for the people watching out there, I know some of my followers know that I do these what I call ship flags. I mean, literally, it's like if somebody out there wants to do a Gwen Miles flag, go right ahead. I don't really have ideas.
Funny thing is, I actually looked up on YouTube, and there actually was an advertisement for the movie. I think it was around like the turn off your cell phone stuff like that. But it essentially starts off with Gwen and Miles getting seats together to see the movie, where the whole PSA is all done with Spider-Ham and Penny Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah, I think I saw it around YouTube.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Spider-Dad joins in later, so it's a third wheel, but still. What
ad is this?
I think I have it in my favorites. Let me see if I can bring it up. Oh yeah, right around here. This is included with my playlist. I'm putting a link right here. But yeah, right. Just added the link over. Yeah, the title.
Take a look at this?
The title is even titled as Date Night Trailer.
Yay!
Oh, what? Okay, it's loading.
And it's fully animated too. It's not like just flip. Like the whole thing is only the first 30 seconds, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Oh.
So there you go, Gwen and Miles shippers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, hey, it was only a
that
PSA.
That was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No.
So yeah, they're aware. They're very aware that, like, when I first heard that the whole thing about how they're gonna focus on that relationship for the sequel, I was going, yes. But then I looked at the writing credits and went, I'm worried.
No.
Because, yeah, people, if they're probably aware that the creator of Korra and Voltron is involved as the director, which I have not. I've already heard some rumblings about how Korra ended up, and I've actually heard a lot of people angry over the latest season of Voltron. But he worked on Justice League Unlimited and bits of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So
Yeah,
I think
he directed
maybe,
some pretty decent Avatar episodes. I mean,
yeah,
some
but
were kind of meh, but
yeah, but he's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the writer they picked, because the writer they picked is responsible for the Expendables trilogy, Doom, and a Godzilla movie where Godzilla's first fight is put in some goddamn news footage. So yeah, they picked a guy who has repeatedly made dull, dull scripts to write a sequel to one of the most quippy and funny movies of the year. I'm worried.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it really hurts me because, like, Into the Spider, it's so hilarious and really endearing. It's like, how can you ruin that? Like, I mean, even I was thinking of, like, oh, this movie is so good. How can anybody screw up? And then I saw 8 Crazy Nights last night, and was just like, oh yeah, douchebags still exist in Hollywood. But anyway, it's just like, why did you get these two? I mean, I don't really mind Joaquin Dos Santos, that's the director, because, like, he's directed these, and then I remember Gareth Edwards' Godzilla, and it's just like, oh, that really slow ass Godzilla. No.
No. And then you find out, oh yeah, my first script was Doom, the movie that made the game that's all about rip and tear, basically Prozac or a sleeping aid. It's just.
I mean, you and I, Steven, we played the 2016 version of Doom, and I'm just like, you need to be skilled to make Doom really, really boring.
Hey, maybe that's a twist. He used a secret skill.
But not to write good screenplays, unfortunately.
No, it's to magically turn gold into shit.
Yeah.
But
oh my God.
yeah, Gwen Miles is really cute.
Mm-hmm.
I've said with that already. I especially like how she's the one to bring up, like, when after Miles loses Uncle Aaron, you don't understand. She's the one that brings up, we're probably the only people around here that understand you, and they went on that whole everyone that they lost thing.
Yeah. Which kind of redeems them from that whole scene earlier where they
we
were
never
really
found out
pressuring
anything
him.
about Spider-Ham.
I think he mentioned something. I don't think he mentioned a specific someone though. Yeah.
No, he just said the hardest part of the job is that you can't save everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, his name is Spider-Ham. What if some of the pigs you actually turned into ham? Or we saw it in the epilogue where he's eating a hot dog. Spider-Ham is a cannibal.
Well, he was a spider at first. It makes sense.
Yes, spiders eat hot dogs.
They eat meat. They eat other insects.
Although I guess you could argue, well, he was a spider that was turned into pig. Maybe that's why he's eating hot dogs. Although that's
exactly what I'm saying.
I will say, one thing to bring up before we end off is, like, I mentioned about how everyone has a purpose for regarding the message, but that it also might have been great to have more scenes with them. And with usually a standalone movie, I would agree that would be a problem. But I think what really makes this work extra for me is that we live in a post-Marvel world where everyone is trying to pump out a cinematic universe. So if something goes well enough, they will make more branching off of it. And quite frankly, this is the only time I've ever seen a cinematic universe made successfully in just one movie. Like all of those things that they only dropped them in, they weren't they weren't necessary, like, or they didn't have enough of them. That's the beauty of this thing, is that those kind of complaints actually transfer to, hey, I want to see more of them. I want to see whole entire films of them. And we can probably get that. We probably will get that, actually.
I agree with that. I agree. You know, I'm pretty sure they're gonna come up with more than probably one film over all of this, because there's a lot to work off of from here.
Yeah. A lot of people have mentioned they want a spider noir film. They want to see they want to see a whole Nicolas Cage animated film.
Yes. I mean, we didn't
like. Now you got me hyped up for that. I want to see that now. Yes. Real bad.
Even just from what I've seen from Into the Spider-Verse, I was even in GameStop the other day, and I was so tempted to pick up the Spider-Man Noir Funko Pop.
Yeah, I was tempted to look up for the lowest prices possible for the Spider-Man game, because I'm trying to hold off, because I know they're still releasing DLC on that. I want to get them all together, but I'm really tempted to just buy standalone and buy the DLC on its own, because it's really tempting to just get into the Spider-Man craze right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said before, I would love to see the next time I go to a convention, people dressing up as, or maybe even a whole line of people dressing up as all the Spider-Verse characters, maybe even including Spider-Man 2099.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Which, by the way, his Stinger cameo is at some point you're thinking, oh, it's just sequel bait, but then it leads into a double reference, and that was just brilliant right there.
Yeah, and for the people watching, I mean, I'm assuming people who watch this review may have already seen Into Spider-Verse or don't mind spoilers, but yeah, it's the whole thing where you have 60 Spider-Man getting in a bit of a squabble with Spider-Man 29 about, hey, it's rude to point at people. Why are you pointing at me? And it goes on and on and on.
Well, they did take that from an actual episode of the old show, didn't they? I think that was part of where they got the idea. Because there was originally an episode like that where there were two Spider-Men dressed exactly the same.
But in this case, they're dressed differently, so what?
Oh, sorry for all the coughing, by the way, guys. I'm not deathly sick, as you can see, but still getting over a little bit of something, so apologies.
Okay.
I will say one thing I think we should actually focus on, now that I think about it, is how we feel about this movie is rated PG, but it tackles loss incredibly well. Right from when we see Peter Parker get killed, and then the aftermath of that, where it goes into to scared of the dark, with the news footage and everything, with how Peter Parker died. It's just everything about that really felt like how it'd feel once they announced a superhero or someone famous died, and then there's all of this mourning and such. And especially with that Stan Lee cameo.
Oh, yeah, that was just. Oh.
Yeah,
that was the point of the movie where I nearly cried.
Especially with the point of this movie of, anybody can be Spider-Man, and, it kind of makes you feel empowered. It's almost like, it's almost as if Stan Lee was speaking to the audience at that point,
Yeah, it fits eventually. And now I'm talking about, Spider-Man, he was a friend of mine. It was
a friend of mine.
What? Here's the thing. Because of that whole sequence, that song "Shape of the Dark" has been on my playlist constantly. Not just because it's a good song, but it's essentially become a post-mortem song for not just Spider-Man, but also Stan Lee and one of the rappers on that track.
Whoa, what?
Dang.
Yeah, like this guy's pretty controversial for getting in for essentially abusing his ex-girlfriend, but he died in a pretty nasty way. He's called Triple X Temptation. You might have heard his name.
Oh, I heard of that.
Yeah, he has
he got really messed up.
Yeah, he has a small verse in this song towards the end. And regardless of how you feel about him, he's definitely been influential on the modern rap scene. A lot of people credit him for the kind of lyrics he would talk about. And I haven't listened to a lot of him, but reading up on how he died, it's a pretty nasty incident. It's just a bunch of
that happened.
A bunch of robbers came in and he just got shot in the crossfire.
Yeah.
But yeah, because of that, this song is literally postmortem for three people. So it just adds on to that weight whenever I listen to it.
Yeah. I mean,
but what's interesting? Oh, keep going.
Yeah, I mean, not to add on, but they even credit Steve Ditko at the end of Spiderverse.
Oh yeah, Steve Ditko,
because both Stan Lee and Ditko created Spider-Man together.
Yeah.
Both passed away in the same year, I might add.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing that brings to mind though is that even after that, Miles experienced loss again with Uncle Aaron, and it's an interesting contrast between how Miles experiences loss and how Kingpin experiences loss. Where you have one case where Miles experiences loss twice and tries to work it in for the better to make sure no one else dies. Meanwhile, Kingpin he went through loss once and basically causes loss for everyone else around him just in order to bring them back. And I thought maybe they could have used a bit more focus on that because they already set up the theme really there. If you just hammer that in a bit more, I think it might have worked even better. But the parallel for it is there, and it's a really strong parallel, I think. Like a good contrast.
I was even kind of surprised to see that they didn't really get into that as much because it was like right there too. It was really easy to like notice, and worked really really well. I feel like if they had taken the time to really delve into that a little more, it would have come out pretty well. No, not that it didn't already, but.
Here's one thing that is interesting though is that the whole reason Kingpin lost his wife and kid is because his wife was horrified by Kingpin attacking Spider-Man. But if you read the comics or even watch the Daredevil television series, what's interesting is that in one of those cases where the wife basically dates a supervillain and actually is totally fine with it. Yeah, if anything, like if you specifically with the Daredevil television series, she actually becomes like a co-conspirator with him.
It's
one of the most fascinating things about that particular series is that it establishes a relationship between a sort of normal person and a supervillain. And by the end, like not even having to go through any brainwash, she just perfectly fits in well into that role as basically the evil queen. It's something I think. Okay, I understand why you had to change that to fit this movie, but obviously between the two, I'd say that dynamic is a lot more interesting.
I kind of like I don't know. I kind of really liked how they worked it out in this movie. Again, I didn't look at any of the other iterations of his background story, so I wouldn't really be able to tell
Who knows?
whether or
Maybe
not.
who knows?
Uh,
Maybe Kingpin might have even able to find that version instead.
oh
that'd be
jeez.
that'd be like his dream come true.
Oh gosh. It just sounds so creepy.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't end up getting redeemed by the at the end, and Miles shocks him and captures him. Like that is actually an interesting point. It's just that hey, doesn't matter if he has a understandable backstory. He still needs to get punished because he's not going to change anything about it.
Yeah. If anything, it just ruins everything else for everybody else.
So yeah, I think that covers everything for thoughts on Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, definitely went to the moon and back. By the way, you guys want to talk about the viewing experience?
Oh,
I really wanted to, like,
Bobby, before you finish editing this, do you want me to send over my footage to you?
Yes.
Okay, because when we went over to the theater, this is because it was the only IMAX screening, and it was at 12:45. Not only was there no one else in the theater but us three,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to go alert the desk to turn the movie on because they pretty much commercials are usually 22 to 24 minutes. They didn't even start the commercials. And so basically we waited for 24 minutes just staring at a black screen.
Mm-hmm. And even when we got in there, like, the lights weren't even turned on. There was, like,
Oh yeah.
when they came out, this one maintenance guy's like, "Oh, what time is your movie?" It's like they weren't even expecting anybody to come. And you
Yep.
bought our tickets, like, the Friday before we saw the movie, right, Steven? And
Yep.
it's like, didn't they know there was going to be people coming?
I think this is just a case of it's the holiday season, so they're understaffed. I mean, something similar happened with when I went to see Mirai, where they didn't even they didn't even open the shutters during commercials. So for the first like minute or so, they had the shutters on. So I pretty much missed the first minute of Mirai because I went over to the desk to say, "Hey, your shutters are still closed."
Dang.
So yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, Regal Theaters is becoming the ghetto theaters right now. They better get their shit together because that was
Oh,
embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. But it was still kind of funny, just like, oh my god, they didn't even know we were coming, so we were just kind of lounging around. You even like, what, you brought down like 3 like seats and like
Oh
used
yeah,
it as a
I have
couch
this
for a second.
I have this thing where like if an entire theater row is empty, I'll just grab 3 seats and make it a makeshift bed.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a really like surreal experience.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I did, like, my sis kind of, like, when I told my sis about it, she was like, "Oh, that makes them look really unprofessional," but I think it's like what you said, Steven, in that it was probably just a case of them being understaffed. I mean,
Yeah.
show the footage that you took when we were in there. I know I think I posted something to my Instagram story. Look at this empty theater. They didn't even start the movie.
Yeah, I'm uploading a folder right now titled "Waiting for the Spider-Verse." I'll send it to you once it's all uploaded.
I think I recorded a short video. It wasn't too long though. But
Well, we can edit it all together later. So,
Yeah.
and by we I mean
you
you,
still want
Bobby.
me to send it to you, Bobby?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Okay.
All right, I'm waiting for mine to upload on Google Drive. So
Just pulling it up. I think it's. Oh, yep.
Well, in the meantime, I think it's a good way to go for any last words.
Yeah, I mean,
It was
final like
awesome.
Love it. Want to see more? Like
yeah,
right now.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Into Spider-Verse, as we said at the beginning, just totally like I definitely blew us out of the water, but it was because the Miles' story was incredibly relatable. The parallels the story made. Again, we were kind of talking about how connecting how Kingpin went all these characters well Miles and Kingpin went through loss and the way but the way Kingpin tries to settle scores ends up making things worse and even resulting in the death of one of Miles's family members. But that parallel is amazing. The whole premise, I think, will totally connect with a lot of people. Like I said, I hope to see a lot of Spider-Man cosplayers. Not just of Spider-Man and Miles, but also it'll be interesting to see people dressing up as Spider-Gwen and Spider-Man Noir, or at comic conventions, which I'm sure we'll get to go to in 2019.
I also hope that people just go up to see this because honestly, it for a superhero film, it's doing rather just okay. Like it could just be the season, but for the box office weekend, it only made about like 35 million, which was the highest for that week, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
heard
would
somebody saying
definitely
it was doing
second
good,
that.
but it
Go watch the film.
yeah, definitely. Like I even like when I mean this movie left me feeling so good. Like I was speechless for like a whole minute after we saw it. But the time it was over because of Miles' story, it made me feel like I accomplished something really big. Or that it's one of those movies where it leaves me feeling so good. It makes me feel like I could accomplish anything. Like I was even doing a little jig at the when I got out of my seat. I mean, it was so freaking amazing. I mean, for me, like as a person who's only seen 3 Spider-Man movies, it's definitely the best of the bunch. And I really hope it, I mean, I know it was nominated at the Golden Globes for Best Animated, but I also hope, especially with how, like, at the Oscars, they really seem to only give, like, Disney and Pixar movies the Best Animated Oscar. I hope it at least gets a nomination because for me, it was a much fresher movie than Incredibles 2, which I think is the current favorite to win. I mean, you guys have anything more to say?
I was done.
Steven?
Yeah, I was pretty much done as well. It's just that who knew that in the who knew that in the same year that Infinity War would blow a bunch of people's minds, that brought you the Emoji Movie would somehow beat it
Yeah.
just
Oh,
a
I
year later.
know.
I mean, really, I
In
think
the
it just
same year, also in the same year that they brought you the disappointing Hotel Transylvania 3. Yeah, what is with that? What quality? It's like trash, and what?
wait. Could you say that again, Steven? You're getting kind of cut off.
Yeah, how do we get that spectrum of quality? We get trash, and what the hell?
I mean, for me, the reasonable thing about it is it's because like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, like in the case of Sony Pictures Animation, from my understanding, if you have, well, you mentioned Hotel Transylvania 3, but generally speaking, if you have Gendy Tartakovsky or Lord and Miller involved, then you're gonna get a really good. I mean, these were the same people that made Clyde for Chance and Meatballs, for Christ's sakes, and now, well, Phil Lord wrote, but they both produced Into the Spider-Verse. Like, I'm even surprised they directed this. I mean, the whole entire premise of Into the Spider-Verse kind of had the Lego Movie's fingerprints, if you ask me. Like,
Yeah, they didn't direct this one. Like they got 3 other directors for it. One of them helped write the script.
mm-hmm. But it's amazing. Like I'm surprised, it wasn't directed by them because their DNA is all over this movie. So I think that about does it for us, guys. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse totally blew us away. It really, I mean, yeah, I'm just without words. Kind of like it was so good that I it's beyond words for me. I mean, people watching, please go see it. People who did watch this and sat through the spoilers, please let us know your thoughts down below and your take on how we felt about the movie. So until next time, guys, it's another movie review. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Oh, Spider-Man gesture.
Yep.
Okay.
Why you gotta be so expensive? Cartoon Network, did you have to make another bad show?